Hi there, you are watching Real Turkey Channel and I am Atilla Yesilada, the face of Real Turkey Channel. Today we're going to go back to Turkish politics and I want to give you the good tidings. Our beloved chief, President Mr. Erdogan, wants to be president for life. Yes, he officially threw his hat into the ring on 10th of November saying, "As long as Allah gives me life and my nation wants me, I shall wish to serve as your president," which means forever. But there is a problem. According to the constitution, Erdogan is a lame duck. He has, under the new constitution, served 2 terms, which makes him ineligible to stand for election again. A pretty thorny dilemma, isn't it? What can be done? Well, you know what lawyers are for. They are to discover the loopholes in existing laws and regulations. And in Turkey, the art of legislative writing is so poor that there are always 2 loopholes. There are 2 loopholes, 2 paths for Erdogan to regain his eligibility. The first is a constitutional amendment or a new constitution. According to precedent, there is a ruling by the High Election Commission. If the constitution changes, the sitting president gets an extra bonus term. So, the second path is the Turkish Assembly, the Turkish Parliament, voting for early elections, which also, according to the constitution, allows Erdogan to run again. So what's going to happen in the next few days or in the next few weeks? Already, Erdogan and his loyal ally, nationalist Mr. Bahçeli, who is the chairman of MHP party, are working very hard to find the number of votes to change the constitution. Just a simple arithmetic here. AKP plus ally MHP have roughly 220 seats in the 600 chamber. It takes they have 320 seats in a 600 chamber. The minimum vote for a constitutional change is 360. If a constitutional amendment is passed with less than 400 votes, but more than 360 votes, then the president has the authority to submit it to a national referendum. So, at the very least, AKP and MHP have to find a third party to cooperate in this endeavor. And so far, all the opposition parties said, nah, thanks a lot. I won't be playing that game. So they have focused on the Dem party, which represents the majority of Turkish ethnic Kurds. And they're going about it in a very strange way. Usually, the method in this type of efforts is you talk to Dem party, you sit down, there is a give and take, horse trading if you wish, and then you write a constitution that satisfies the basic needs of both parties. That is not to the liking of Mr. Erdogan. Mr. Erdogan wishes to use the imprisoned leader of PKK terror organization, Abdullah Öcalan, to urge PKK to disarm unilaterally, which presumably then would exert pressure on them to cooperate on this new constitution. This is not going to work. PKK has made it very clear through official statements that it has no intention to abandon armed struggle. Öcalan has been in prison for over 25 years and he's still influential among Kurds, in particular among Syrian Kurds. But PKK doesn't take orders from Öcalan. So, this path of bribing Öcalan, who then orders PKK to disarm, who in turn orders Dem party to cooperate with AKP and MHP in the constitutional process, is a dead end. Moreover, if a new constitution is passed with less than 400 votes, Erdogan is very certain to lose the national referendum for a very simple reason, which our American audience will understand. The single most problem of Turks is the cost of living. And no matter why they're asked to vote, they are going to register their displeasure with Erdogan, who hasn't done anything to slow down inflation. So it is extremely risky for Erdogan to take a new constitution to a national referendum. So to change the constitution without a referendum, which would open the way for Erdogan to become eligible again, he also needs to bribe some of the smaller parties. At least two of the smaller parties, plus them, need to cooperate to garner the 400 votes. Even then, it is extremely risky because, according to the Constitution, the constitutional voting is secret. And we have seen numerous times in the past that party discipline completely erodes and Congress people vote their conscience in the secret voting procedures. So even if the Dem party leaders and the leaders of two smaller parties agree to vote yes, it's not clear that their backbenchers will follow. Have I spent enough time to prove to you that the constitutional change will not work? I think so, but the early elections path is promising because the main opposition party, CHP, said, yes, we will agree to support a legislation for early election under certain conditions. Let's look at the math again. As I've said, AKP plus MHP have roughly 320 seats, roughly because, Turkish Congress people switch parties like I switch my underwear. CHP has over 100, so AKP, MHP, CHP can legislate early elections without any fuss or any convoluted multi-party negotiations. But there are caveats. The caveat is that CHP leader Özgür Özel said his party would only agree to early elections if they are held by or before November 2025. That is, in no more than 13 months, which is completely unacceptable to Erdogan. Why? Because as I've said, if early elections are held within 13 months, during which progress towards disinflation is almost impossible, people will go to the ballot to register their protest about the high cost of living, and Erdogan will lose. So after exhausting all efforts to change the constitution, Erdogan will go to Özel and negotiate on the date of early elections. Is there any way for Özel to change his red lines about the deadline? Yes, he can easily grant Erdogan another 6 months or so. And his conditions for doing so are very simple and declared to the public. A, he wants massive increases to the statutory minimum wage, and he wants all pensions, even the lowest pension, to be indexed to the minimum wage. Currently, roughly 4, maybe 7 million retirees out of Turkey's large cohort of 16 million draw pensions less than the minimum wage. So, Özel will agree to delay elections until, say, mid-2026, with the proviso that there would be huge pork barreling. And Özel will then sell to his constituency that, see, thanks to me, thanks to CHP, we have improved your living conditions. If you elect us, we will do much better than that. And I think that's what will happen. By June or so, we will see Erdogan visiting Özel and the negotiations starting on early election date. As a result, 3 to 5 months before the early election, pork barreling will start. Erdogan will spend massive amounts of money to bribe the voters to forget about high inflation. And Turkey's economic stabilization program, currently orchestrated by Mehmet Şimşek, would be put on ice. Turkish inflation will rise again. I don't want to take a bet about Erdogan winning the next election. I think even if he spends a lot of money, his chances are lower than the last time when he won in the second round, simply because he's facing more formidable rivals. Two of CHP mayors, Ankara Mayor Mansur Yavaş and Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu, do much better than he in all of the polls I have seen. Of course, he can use the judiciary, which is completely under AKP's control, to ban these two people from politics. Indeed, there is a lawsuit against Ekrem İmamoğlu, which is currently at the appeal stage, which bans him from political office for the next 5 years. The problem with this approach is that if Ekrem İmamoğlu or Mansur Yavaş are permanently banned or all appeals are exhausted, then CHP will not cooperate in terms of early elections. That's Erdogan's dilemma. So, he will probably use Ekrem İmamoğlu and Mansur Yavaş candidacy as leverage against Özel to delay the elections. As I've said, Turkey will have early elections, inflation will rise, but Turkish lira will remain strong simply because no one wants a weaker lira going into the campaign period, and the central bank has sufficient FX reserves to defend the TL against any bank run or against any attack by speculators. After the elections, if Erdogan wins, we're going to go back to square one. Mehmet Şimşek will be reappointed, and he'll be tasked with cleaning the wreckage and starting over to disinflate the economy. So, nothing changes. If CHP wins, they are going to spend everything in the Turkish treasury, give very generous pay hikes, pension hikes, essentially feed the entire public. Turkish inflation will soar to 3 digits. The treasury will become bankrupt, and within a year after the next election, Özgür Özel or his coalition partners will invite IMF to sort out this mess. So, that's the next 2 years in Turkish history to be written in 20 minutes. This is Atilla Yesilada. I am grateful that you watched another video by Real Turkey channel. If you like, subscribe. But as importantly to me, please, if you like the content, share it with those who are interested in Turkey for one reason or other, so I can grow our tiny audience.